Stephen from Olympia, Washington. The O-line and the D-lines look good on Saturday. Go Cougs. This is where we want everybody on the live stream to let us know what you thought of opening night. Southern Illinois, BYU beats them 41-13. Most points since they beat Southern Utah last year. Jake Retzlaff, 348 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. L.J. Martin rushed for 13 times. I think that was 66 yards and a touchdown. I also caught a touchdown. Chase Roberts, over 100 yards receiving. And the BYU defense holding the Salukis to 231 total yards, 4 of 12 on third down.
Yeah, and keep in mind, the Salukis quarterback, this was a transfer. So they started the transfer from Murray State.
Yeah.
And when you watch him on film last year at Murray State, he didn't run around like that. They didn't use him in the run game. He scrambled, but when he would scramble, he would just buy some time, run parallel to the line of scrimmage, and throw it downfield. So BYU, they saw him on film, and that's all you can do. You can go, this is what his skill set is. He's really athletic. We got to keep him in the pocket. But they probably didn't do a ton of preparation for a straight-out quarterback run game.
And remember, they didn't announce their quarterback either until game time.
And so you have a decision to make in game, right? Now you go, listen, so we didn't plan to have a spy for him. We didn't focus on this. So this is a surprise, right? So he's getting a couple of big chunks, but they're not going to be able to score. It's not sustainable for them to run that all the way down the field. Now, on the other hand, everything else they're trying to do, we're shutting down.
Yeah.
Zone's working great against their pass game. When they're playing man, they're locking people down. Their regular run game, their running backs couldn't get anything. And so I think Kalani and Jay, who was there, by the way, and consulting, I would say, from up in the booth, Gavin, Justin, Kelly, that whole group, they just said, you know what? We're not going to make an adjustment on this quarterback. We're going to be a little more aware of it, but we're going to stay with what we're doing and what we planned because it's so effective, and we feel like they're going to really struggle to score with this guy doing it that way, and we'll keep the score down and we'll keep the yardage down. And they did exactly that. That was a good decision. So people said, man, their quarterback ran around a little bit. Why was that? Well, there you go. That was the reason for that. And they said, we'll take that and we'll shut everything else down and we'll be successful. And they were.
Let's revisit your 3 keys to the game. So what we're going to do each week is Blaine will give 3 keys. We'll hold them accountable, and they'll revisit them. And then in a few minutes, after we hear from Kalani, we'll get 3 new keys for SMU.
Yep.
But your number 1 key last week was that BYU would be +1 in turnover margin. Mm-hmm. And
we said that I wanted them to average 5.5 yards per rush.
Whoa. Take credit. They were +1.
Yeah, they were +1. Everybody knows that.
I'm setting you up here.
Okay, yeah, they were +1.
Yeah, okay. You wanted 5.5 yards per rush.
They had a dropped interception by a linebacker that was right in his hands, too. They could have been +2.
Cost me the Y factor. I'm pretty sure.
That's right.
So you wanted 5.5 yards a carry. They averaged 3.8.
Yeah, but when we look at the running backs in that game, we were very pleased. Like every one of the running backs averaged 4.4 yards or more. But the kneel downs, they did 3 straight kneel downs at the end, lost 4 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards.
Yeah.
And that hurt the average, along with 1 sack. Jake Retzlaff had a sack that was like -10. So the negative yardage overcame the positive. I'm not making excuses, so I didn't hit that one. I wanted 5.5. They didn't get it. But let me just say this. I was pleased with the run game, and I thought it got better as the game went along, and that offensive line got better as the game went along.
Jonathan says he likes the O-line, thinks it's improved, but concerned that they did not get enough yards per carry. The quarterback threw for 348. They had over 500 yards of offense. But, we thought maybe they might run a little better.
And I thought they'd be a little more physical, especially at the end of the game. Keep in mind that program is notorious for being really stingy against the run. And they put a lot of people on the line of scrimmage. And so there were some big plays in the pass game available out there. Some plays over the top and some big plays because they crowd the line of scrimmage. So you got to take what the defense gets.
Right.
I'm with you. I would like to have had more than that, right? So
here's one to wrap up your 3 keys. You declared you did not want any stupid errors by the quarterback, and you didn't get any.
Yeah.
So, it's 2 for 3.
Good decision making, nice throws. In the interview, I talked to Jake about that today. You'll see it on Friday, about his decision making and how comfortable he's feeling. Do you know how you and I were talking about in the second half while we were watching the game? I said, I feel like his footwork got better in the second half. I asked him about that. He agreed that he got more comfortable as the game went on. Yeah. And so more comfortable with his protection, more confident in his protection, more comfortable with where guys were. And he talked to me, and I'll let you guys hear specifically about it, but 2 throws he made where he did not see the receiver, but he was so confident in that receiver that they would be where they were supposed to be, and he was so confident in his read of the defense that he threw it to the spot where the receiver was supposed to be.
Nice.
And the receivers told him, yeah, we didn't see you. All of a sudden, we just saw the ball come out of a crowd. but we went to where we were supposed to be, and we made the catch. One of them was that Chase Roberts catch where he dove and caught the ball.
Yeah. Roberts was solid.
That's next level. That's comfortable to go, can't see him, but I trust he's going to run that dig at exactly the yard he's supposed to run it at, and it's going to time out on this step for me. I'm going to let it fly to the open area. He's going to go get it. I noticed that in the second half, especially that he seemed more confident. I love that.
Phil is on the live stream tonight from Cedar Park, Texas. He says, see you all at SMU and Baylor. That's right, plural. He's going to both games.
Beautiful.
And wear your blue shirt and have a good time. That's awesome. And Blaine, one thing we loved is we saw no turnovers for BYU on the first game of the year.
Yeah, and if you think about turnovers, were costly to BYU all year last year. Yeah. There were some games where you could go back and say, my goodness, if they just take care of the football, they win. Kansas, I feel like, is one of those games. They had costly turnovers against Oklahoma State and against Oklahoma, and it's just like. And last year it seemed like not only were they costly turnovers, they were fatal turnovers. You think about how many times BYU, especially at the beginning games, would turn the ball over, and we call them terminal turnovers. It's not just you're driving down and you're on their 25 and you fumble the ball and they recover it, and now your defense has to defend 80 yards or 75 yards. It's, let's throw a pick six. Or let's have a scoop and score. Like literally points, not plays later, directly. Or turn the ball over deep in your own territory where they only have to, they're 15 yards from pay dirt. Those are terminal turnovers. They completely cost you, and they can lose you a football game. And so that's something that needed to be cleaned up in the offseason in spring ball. It was a huge focus, I can tell you, of how they wanted the quarterbacks to handle the ball, how they wanted 2 hands on the ball, how they needed to look for certain things, how they need to secure it when they get how they wanted running backs to carry the ball, and what they needed to look for, and when they can change hands. All of that was worked on in the offseason. You always do, but there was more of an emphasis. And, we got one game to look at. That's the data right now. They were phenomenal.
Council Bluffs, Iowa, we see on the live stream. Good to have you with us on the Wise Guys. What else we like? Well, there was only 3 penalties on BYU. Again, that's the first time out. Usually there's a bunch on teams going up against another team for the first time. 41 points scored. We like that. And how about the 3 deep balls? JoJo Phillips, Parker Kingston, and Keelan Marion all brought them in for big plays, and Retzlaff was right on the money.
Yeah, and Jake's, this might have not even been on the air, but in our conversation, he's like, yeah, because he and I were talking about his footwork in the first half versus the second half, and I thought that it was better. Jake has such a big arm that he can get away sometimes with just having his feet parallel and not really setting his feet and squaring up his hips, and he can still fling it out there 60 yards. He has a big arm. That's to your, that's a benefit, but it also can be to your detriment because you're not as accurate when you do it that way. Yeah. And he mentioned to me, he brought it up, he goes, he said there was a couple of balls early in the game where I had guys open on deep balls and I missed them because I was too jacked up and my footwork wasn't good. He goes, as I settled in, we started to complete those balls. And so I think we're going to see a quarterback this week against better competition, but who in that second half really found himself and understands that he's got to keep his mechanics solid and the quarterbacks are built from the ground up. So I expect more of that. And part of that's because they ran the ball early in the game. And when you're running it and you're dedicated to the run and the team's trying to step up and defend the run, then there's some big plays over the top to be made.
Here's what we didn't like. Just one reception for Keanu Hill. They tried to get him the ball. They got to get him going. Southern Illinois' quarterback was a challenge to contain. 3 bobbled punt and kickoff returns took away opportunities for big plays, especially on the one kickoff where they had the 15-yard penalty. They're booting it at their 20-yard line, and Marion, just look at his chops to get going. forgot the ball. And next thing you know, he's tackled at the 12.
Yeah. Right before that, we all looked at each other up in our little crow's nest and said, man, that's a costly penalty and unsportsmanlike conduct after a touchdown.
Yeah.
Now you got to kick off, and this should be a huge return. And it wasn't a huge return because it got bobbled. So a wasted opportunity and too many bobbled punts that took away opportunities and cost BYU field position against a good team like SMU or, even up in Wyoming. They have to do a better job in fielding punts and kickoffs and being able to do a good job on that, right?
Yeah. JL joining us on the live stream for the first time from Pleasant Hill, California. Two things we didn't like, which we're going to focus on after further review tomorrow night on the BYU TV app. The big catch by Southern Illinois late in the first half should have been reviewed. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a catch, but it counted.
Yep.
Set up their touchdown. And then their fumble in the third quarter should not have been overturned. It was ruled a fumble. BYU recovered. Then they took a look at it and decided that you can you cannot have possession of the ball when it's in one hand, and then you switch it over to the other, and then you fumble it.
But not only that, he made a football move. He actually had the ball in his left hand. He made a move to make the defender miss, and then puts it in the right hand, and he fumbles it while he's passing it from one hand to the other. Is that not a fumble?
Yeah, it's a fumble.
You don't have possession, yet you had the wherewithal to make a move and to move it from one hand to the other. To me, that's clearly a fumble.
That's clearly a fumble.
Hey, and the other key, Earl Carr points out, which, Earl, we should have put this. This is big time. Maybe this should be number one. Austin Collie was talking about it in the postgame, and he was knocking on wood the whole time. This is the healthiest BYU's been going into a first game in probably a decade. This is the healthiest they have come out of a game one in probably a decade. And we're just going to keep, these tables are wood. Yeah, we're going to keep knocking on wood. But Earl, that's a great point. They sustained no major injuries in that game, and they go into SMU completely healthy.
As we look at SMU and what they bring to the table, they're 2-0. They beat Nevada 29-24. Had to come from behind to do that. And then the other night they beat Houston Christian 59-7, which would be the equivalent of BYU playing Timpview. And so that was that. Las Vegas has them a 10-point favorite on their home field.
Yeah, but Las Vegas also had BYU only a 14-point favorite on their home field.
BYU beat Vegas and the Salukis
by a mile.
And they're playing at night. BYU's 21-3 in their last 24 night games. Greg Wrubell tweeted that out today.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a nice night.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking to you a little while ago before we came on the show. I don't know what to make of these guys.
Yeah,
because they've been really good against opponents that are lesser opponents. They were great in their league last year. It wasn't a Power 5 league, right? They played, when they played Power 5 teams, they didn't win, including in their bowl game when they were going into that bowl game with 11 wins, the most they'd had in years, and they played Boston College, who's good, but they're weren't a world beater in the ACC, and they got beat, and it's just like, so now they go out and they play Nevada. Nevada was picked, and it's on the road. It's not an easy place to play. We've done games from there.
Yes, we have.
Nevada's picked 12th out of 12 teams in the Mountain West Conference.
That's not good.
And they struggled to run the football with the running backs. They did throw the ball. Nevada was able to run the ball on them. And here's the thing I'm saying. Last year, this was a very good defensive team. Very opportunistic. They forced turnovers. They piled up sacks. But when they played Power 5 teams, now we call them Power 4 because there's no Pac-12.
Yeah.
Power 4 teams just ran the ball right down their throats. They got out-physicaled up front by Power 4 teams. Now, BYU was not a world beater running the football last year either, but they are big and physical up front, and you would expect that they're going to test SMU up front running the football. So, and BYU's, they're in their second year, so they're new to this as well, but they look like a Power 4 football team now, size-wise and physically. So I'll be interested. And then they play Houston Christian, who used to be Houston Baptist. We got very confused. I got confused on that the other night. But they used to be Houston Baptist.
They weren't any better as Houston Baptist.
Houston Christian has only been playing football since 2013. They made the jump to FCS. Last year was the first time in history that they didn't have a losing season, and they went 5-5. They're picked 7th in a 9-team league, the Southland Conference. So that's who they played.
Yeah.
Now, I look at SMU on paper, who they've got. They've got almost all of their production back defensively. Their top 7 tacklers, their top 9 out of 11. Like, they should be really good, and they still be opportunistic. They got a lot of speed defensively, but I just don't know.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure about the competition they've played at this point. Just like I don't know for sure about BYU. Although I will say this, Southern Illinois is a lot more like Nevada than they are Houston Christian. And BYU manhandled them, right? And so we'll see. I don't know what to make of them. I know I agree with Kalani in his sound bite with us. This is a very good coaching staff. This is very well. They're versatile offensively. They do. BYU knows they run the quarterback run game, right? And so they've got to do a good job of shutting that down. They'll have more of a plan for that than they did against Southern Illinois. Kevin Jennings, he averaged 10 yards a carry from the quarterback spot last week against Houston Christian.
Well, you should.
And he can throw the ball. So and then they bring in Stone Preston, who or Preston Stone or Preston Stone.
Yeah, he's the bigger one.
Yeah, I'm losing my mind.
And he threw a couple of touchdowns.
No, it's Preston Stone. Yeah, it's Preston Stone. He comes in and he really gives them a run game from the quarterback position. I was really impressed with Brashad Smith, the running back. He seems to get his home run capability at running back. He transferred from Miami, hardly got any carries in his years there, transfers in. So I think BYU's got to be very aware of the big play capability in the run game, especially out of the quarterback and out of Smith, and play really solid defensively against the pass game, because this is a balanced team that does both things well, and they get after you on defense. And I've got a lot of respect for their coaching staff.
Turnovers is going to decide it. It always does.
Yeah.
So we do know that it's going to be a nice night in Dallas. It's a 6 o'clock kick time, Dallas time. A high of 91 on the day on Friday, a low of 69. So we'll be down there. It'll be warm, but in the 70s in that second half. BYU's going to wear the all-white jerseys with the navy trim and the navy helmet. First time they've done that. I saw a picture of it on social media from the equipment guys. Looks outstanding. I think it's going to be awesome. Yeah. SMU is going to counter with red shirts, white pants, a white helmet with the red Mustang. So that's how they're going to do that. Before we go to our next guest live in Dallas, we've got keys to the game.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do key number 1 for BYU to win on Friday night.
And you've already mentioned this, and we've mentioned it, and Brandon mentioned it. They need to win the turnover battle. SMU's, I mentioned, they're fast. They get after it on defense. They create sacks. They create turnovers. That's what they did last year. That's why they were so good last year. So BYU has to take care of the ball. Part of taking care of the ball is not just not throwing interceptions, but not putting the ball on the ground. So running backs have to secure the ball high and tight. And when the quarterbacks are back there, with the way they come after you on the edge, you got to have 2 hands on the football. You can't get hit and sacked. And a sack is bad enough. You can't compound a sack with coughing the football up and having them create a turnover. So that's my number 1.
What's
win the turnover
number 2?
battle. Number 2 is establish run game early, and big plays will come in the back end. So if BYU can run the football and force SMU to crowd the line of scrimmage more, this is what the P5 teams have done to SMU the last couple years. They run the ball, to the tune of 189 yards plus last year in the run game for P5s. And then the big plays come over the top because they got to crowd the line of scrimmage. And then you can see JoJo Phillips or now Darius Laster, who didn't play last week, or Chase Roberts getting over the top. So establish the run, and that can be through quick throws and screens as well. Make them come up and then go over the top.
All right, and the third and final key to beating SMU. These are Blaine's keys here on the Wise Guys.
We talked about this a little bit. Let's make it a formal key. Limit big plays, especially in the run game from this team. So don't allow their quarterback to turn a 3rd and 5 into a touchdown by running 37 yards downfield. Don't let Smith get loose on a toss, make somebody miss, get in open space, and run it 70 yards to the house for a touchdown. So really limit big plays, but especially in the run game and especially the quarterback run game. They let that happen last week, kind of by design. That's not the play design this week. Look for them to do a better job in the quarterback run game and limit big plays.
Those are Blaine's keys, 1, 2, 3, to a victory at SMU on Friday night in Dallas. And